Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Learn English with Podcast. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with Laura.
Hi, Chris, and hello to all our listeners. Today's episode is going to be packed with tips, strategies, and insights because we're talking about how to use podcasts to improve your English.
That's right, Laura. Podcasts are a fantastic tool for language learning, but to get the best results, it's important to know how to use them effectively.
And don't forget, we've prepared a PDF for this episode, full of useful tips and vocabulary to help with your learning. You can find it on our Telegram channel. We left the link in the description. So, let's start with the basics. First, let's talk about why podcasts are such a powerful tool for learning English.
Sure. One big advantage is accessibility. You can listen to podcasts anytime, anywhere, on your way to work, during your workout, or while doing chores. All you need is a smartphone or a computer.
That's so true. And another reason is that podcasts give you access to authentic English. Unlike textbooks, which often use formal or outdated language, podcasts show you how people really speak in everyday situations.
Exactly. You can hear natural conversations, learn slang, and pick up on cultural references. Plus, many podcasts feature different accents, which is great for understanding the diversity of English.
Another great thing about podcasts is that they're immersive. When you're listening, you're surrounded by the language. Even if you don't understand everything, your brain is working to process the sounds, rhythms, and patterns.
That's a really important point. Immersion is one of the best ways to learn any language. And let's not forget variety. There are podcasts on almost every topic imaginable. Whether you're into sports, science, travel, or storytelling, there's something out there for you.
Now, Chris, let's break it down. How can podcasts help improve specific English skills like listening, speaking, and vocabulary?
Great question. Let's start with listening. Podcasts are perfect for sharpening your listening skills because they train you to understand different speaking styles, speeds, and accents.
Right. And when you listen regularly, you get better at identifying key words, phrases, and the main ideas of conversations, even if you don't catch every single word.
Exactly. And for speaking, podcasts can be surprisingly useful. Have you ever tried shadowing, Laura?
I have. For our listeners, shadowing is when you repeat what you hear in real time. It's like copying the speaker's words, pronunciation, and intonation.
It's a fantastic way to improve your fluency and confidence. Even if you can't keep up with the speaker at first, don't worry. Just focus on short phrases and work your way up.
That's great advice. And what about vocabulary?
Oh, podcasts are amazing for vocabulary building. When you hear new words in context, it's easier to remember them. And because the words are used naturally, you also learn when and how to use them.
Yes. I always recommend keeping a notebook handy while listening. When you hear a new word or phrase, write it down. Then, look it up later and try using it in sentences. All right, Chris, let's get practical. How can our listeners make the most of podcasts in their English learning journey?
The first step is to choose the right podcast. If you're a beginner or intermediate learner, look for podcasts designed for English learners. These often have slower speech, clear pronunciation, and explanations of difficult words.
That's a great point. And for intermediate or advanced learners, you can try podcasts meant for native speakers. They're more challenging, but offer a wealth of authentic language.
Agreed. Once you've chosen a podcast, don't just listen passively. Engage with the content. For example, if the podcast comes with a transcript, use it.
Absolutely. Reading along while listening helps you connect spoken and written English. It's also useful for understanding tricky words or phrases you might miss just by listening.
Another tip is to listen to each episode more than once. The first time, focus on understanding the main idea. Then, on your second or third listen, pay attention to details like grammar, pronunciation, or new vocabulary.
That's a great strategy. And what about learners who feel overwhelmed?
If you're overwhelmed, break it into smaller parts. Listen to just 5 or 10 minutes of the episode instead of the whole thing. You can also slow down the playback speed if the speaker talks too fast.
That's a good one. Many podcast apps allow you to adjust the speed. Slower speech can make it easier to follow along, especially if you're still building your listening skills. Now, Chris, let's talk about consistency. How can listeners turn podcast learning into a regular habit?
Great question. One way is to pair podcasts with another daily activity. For example, listen during your commute, while exercising, or even while preparing meals.
That's a great idea. Another tip is to set realistic goals. For instance, aim to listen to 1 episode a day or 3 episodes a week.
And don't forget to track your progress. Keep a journal where you note down the episodes you've listened to, the words you've learned, and the skills you've improved.
That's such a motivator. And if you're feeling extra ambitious, you could even record yourself summarizing what you learned from the episode.
I love that idea. It combines speaking and listening practice in one activity.
Before we wrap up, let's help our listeners choose the best podcasts for their goals.
Sure. If you're looking for English learning podcasts, some great options include BBC Learning English, The English We Speak, and of course, Learn English with Podcast.
Those are excellent choices. And if you want to explore other topics, try podcasts like Stuff You Should Know or Science Viz. They're made for native speakers but can be super engaging for advanced learners.
That's true. And don't be afraid to explore different genres. News, storytelling, comedy, and interview podcasts all offer unique ways to learn.
Just remember to choose something you enjoy. Learning English should feel exciting, not like a chore.
Let's do a quick recap of some useful words we talked about today. Transcript, a written version of the spoken content in a podcast or audio recording. Example, reading the transcript while listening to the podcast helps improve comprehension.
It's a transcript of a recorded call that came in this morning.
Shadowing, a language learning technique where you repeat what you hear in real time to mimic pronunciation and intonation. Example, shadowing podcast speakers can improve your speaking fluency and accent.
With Miami Metro's finest, shadowing my every move.
Immersion, being surrounded by a language to enhance learning naturally through exposure. Example, listening to English podcasts daily creates an immersive learning environment.
Yeah, well, Charlie got a little tuckered out from yoga, so we had to reschedule art appreciation at Mocha for some low-impact language immersion.
Active listening, fully concentrating, understanding, and engaging with what is being heard. Example, active listening to podcasts involves focusing on the speaker's tone and vocabulary.
Chapter 5, active listening, where you put on your big ears and really focus on the other person.
Comprehension, the ability to understand and make sense of what is heard or read. Example, regular podcast listening improves both your listening and comprehension skills.
The engineering comprehension necessary to artificially create a black hole may suggest an answer.
Fluency, the ability to speak or understand a language smoothly and effortlessly. Example, listening to podcasts regularly can help you achieve fluency in English.
Who doesn't speak Bengali, at least not with any fluency?
So we decided to give you grammar tests to improve your grammar level. Let's go.
Well, Laura, I think we've covered just about everything.
We sure have. Podcasts are such a powerful tool for learning English, but they're even more effective when you use them with a plan.
Absolutely. So, listeners, start by finding a podcast you love, and then try some of the tips we shared today. Be consistent, stay curious, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
That's right. Thanks for joining us today, and if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend.
We'll see you next time on Learn English with Podcast. Bye for now.
Take care and happy listening.